Today we do Daf Chaf. Exactly. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. We're learning. Should have basic English immediately. Anyone starting the Yerushalmi?
I went on. They don't have anything on this morning yet.
Okay. You're going to do the Yerushalmi?
And Daf Yomi, this website that's so popular.
Which
All
there's
Daf.
so many.
No, the one called All Daf.
Oh, yeah.
They're starting Yerushalmi.
Separate from the Daf Yomi.
Yeah. It's another Daf Yomi Yerushalmi. If you want to finish the Yerushalmi. Okay.
You know the you're saying. No, this fell for me.
Oh, will they end it around the same time?
This was edited later.
No, but I was saying like the cycle would have finished.
Oh,
Talking about All
maybe.
Daf.
Will the cycle finish around the same time? How many years in are we? We were 2000, right? 2020. 2020. January 1st. No, but the bracha started January 2020. So we're almost 3 years in. Right? I think it's 5 or 6 years.
The other difference is we end up in that state. They're going to celebrate Yerushalayim.
Mishnah says, Nadar b'cherim. If you took a vow, and the vow was that this object is cherim, is dedicated. And he didn't explain what he meant at that point. However, later on, he says, Va'amar le'nadarti ala b'charmei shel yam. I didn't mean cherim, that it's dedicated to the base of Mikdash. I didn't mean that. I meant that it was a fishnet. Now, which has no meaning because there's no such thing as a vow that it's a fishnet. So basically, he didn't take a vow. Now, it's interesting how the Mishnah shifted from the example that it had earlier. Before he says there were two options. If he says cherim, he says cherim shel shemayim or cherim shel kayanim. And if it's only dedicated to heaven, would have been the vow. But if it was dedicated to the kayanim, then it's not a vow. The Mishnah shifted here like entirely off. It's totally not a cherim. It's just an entirely different concept. The Rans over here are the Ran's division of the Mishnah is not the same. The next
If you're
case.
going to whisper so low, then don't share. If you're going to share, let us hear.
I just had a doubt with this thing, and then when the rabbi said it, like it came to me.
Okay, so the karban, let's say he says that he's taking a vow that it's like a sacrifice. Well, Amar, but then he explained later on. He said, I meant that it was a gift to the kings, which is also called a karban, but it's not karban. When we use a karban, we say a sacrifice, which is called a karban. He wasn't talking about a sacrifice. He was talking about a gift that's given to which is basically, again, not a neder. Harei atzmi karban. It says myself is a sacrifice. He's probably talking to someone. He says that I'm forbidden from you like a sacrifice. So basically, he prohibited all benefit from himself, from the other person, that the other person should be prohibited, the other person to get benefit from him. But afterwards, he says, Now, the word etzem could mean myself, or it could also mean a bone. So he switches it later on. He says, oh, I just meant that there's a bone that I have in my house. When I take a vow, I use that bone to hold with. So he says, but that bone, which is basically not a vow, it's nothing.
He's keeping a mechanism that he can use to fool people.
Right.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
Is there a legitimate practical reason someone would want to do that? Is there, in other words, is there some was there some religious or legitimate reason people seeming to say they could vow but not really doing it? That's what
It's
this
like he crossed his fingers. You know?
I think it's just sort of a good luck.
So he just gets out of it. He says, like, I wasn't really serious. I meant something else.
It's like people today saying things and then reflexively saying.
Right. Kainam, this is an interesting one. Kainam ishti nanisli, prohibit my wife from getting benefit from me. Maybe it means opposite. Maybe it prohibits his wife. Maybe prohibits himself from getting benefit from his wife. How do they translate that? Okay, he prohibits his wife to get benefit from him. But later he says, I wasn't referring to this wife, referring to a previous wife that I had already divorced. Which is basically, she's not getting benefit from him anyway. This would be that he's not going to have relations with her. But he divorced her already, so. Right. Al-Kulan Ein Nishalan Lahem. Now, this phrase, Ein Nishalan Lahem, means that they don't need to ask for it to be annulled. These vows don't even need to be asked. In other words, we trust the interpretation that was given and that there was actually no vow there. Ein Nishalan Lahem. It means they don't have to ask the rabbi to annul it. And if they did ask, yeah.
There's no consequences like for doing these fake vows.
Let's see. If they did ask, they get punished. They didn't even have to ask. Why should they get punished? Well, we'll see in the Gemara what's going on. And we're strict with them. Like not to annul it right away. Reb Meir. That's Reb Meir's interpretation. They say no. They say we actually do annul it for them. And the Chacham also say they don't get punished for making this vow. Ran points out that there's 2 points that the Chachamim argue with Reb Meir. However, we do train them not to be lenient, not to be taking the Nedarim lightly.
No, but when it says, and this is always that discussion, I always forget the answer. When it says Chachamim, supposed to let's say not Yehuda. So I mean the whole slew of other guys, or is it just who are the Chachamim?
We never really know.
So in this case, it's not Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar.
We never know who it is.
The other side.
Gemara sometimes says man chachamim, or who are they, and then it finds a brisa that would match with that opinion, and then in that brisa we'll have one person or 2 people. It looks like it's a rabbin. It looks like, but I'm not 100% sure that it's always like that.
Does the halacha typically go by a chachamim?
Yeah.
Because
Especially against Rameir. Okay. Let's take a look at the Gemara because there's a lot of things that need to get explained. Just one point here, the Ran says that when we train them not to make a neder like this is only said regarding this neder where they get out of it in a very odd, a very strange way. It says that what I meant by the dedication, I really meant the fishnet.
For which means it's for a king.
Or like a king or a gift for a king, those types of things. But in the first Mishnah, in the Mishnah that we had previously, he said Basar Maliach, and then he interpreted that it was referring to an idol, I wasn't referring to an actual sacrifice. That's leaning more towards a natural explanation. And it's only over here where it's like this abnormal explanation that we have to train it. Okay. We say Hagufa Kasha. The Mishnah itself is self-contradictory because it starts off saying Amrit Einishalim, that these vows do not need to be annulled. And then Vahaditani, then you tell me that when they annul them, we punish them and we don't we're strict on it. First you tell me you don't need to annul it, then you tell me that when they annul it, that when you don't need to annul it, it means it's not even a vow. There is no annulling it. Amar Rav Yehuda Hachikatani. Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda is a student of Rav and Shmuel. So he comes in and he explains the Kulan ain't Tzrichim Shaila. No, they don't need to be annulled. That's only if he's a Torah scholar. But if he's usually translated as ignoramus, Shabali Shal, that he's coming to ask, then we're going to be strict on him and we're going to punish him.
Wait, why'd you jump that other the one we were
Now we're in the Gemara.
Oh.
In the Gemara, it has to be Rabbi Yehuda Bar Yecheskel. Yeah. So the Gemara says, Bishlema Machmirin. What does it mean? We're strict on them. We don't just say, okay, we see he regrets it. We're going to immediately annul it. Rather, we're going to have to find the actual heter to get them out of it, not just the regret. A loophole.
Yeah. Are we trying to be more machmir with those who are in Haaretz to get them to be more
take it more serious? We think that the Talmud Chacham, he understands that if this is not a vow, then but other vows are vows. But if we would allow an ignoramus, he's going to think, oh, that vows don't matter. He doesn't know how to distinguish between this vow and another vow. If we just say that this one doesn't matter, he may think that they all don't matter. Well, what does it mean we punish them? What do we punish them with? Kedetanya was taught in a brisa. Mishin Nazar, someone that became a Nazar, but then he just violates the Nazirus. Yes, he drinks wine, he goes to a cemetery, just disregards the Nazirus. Einis kakanlai. We don't annul it for him. He wants to get it annulled after he violates it. What does he have to do? If he didn't keep the Nazirus for 30 days, so we tell him they have to be a Nazir for 30 days and then we'll talk to you. We teach him a lesson. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Now we're back to Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lai. Amar Rabbi Yaisi. Rabbi Yaisi says, when can we say this? That's only been Naziris Muetas. That's when it's a minimal size Naziris. Naziris Meruba, but if it's a long Naziris, if he says it's going to be a Nazir for a year, then we're just going to tell him that it's fine 30 days. Just keep the Naziris for 30 days and then we'll annul it. Amar Rabbi Yosef. So Rabbi Yosef says, since the rabbi said that we're not supposed to right away annul the vow, Beidina de Mizdakake, if a Bezdin does annul it right away, Le'avid Shaper is not acting correct. Rav Bar Yaakov says that we actually put them into Cherem. We excommunicate them, those rabbis that annul the vow right away instead of giving the person a hard time. They want him to give a person a hard time. Okay.
Here, the translation, it has it like they make him do the Nazirship for the same time that he did wrong.
Right.
Like it doesn't restart the clock.
Right.
Like if he violated for 7 days, he has to repeat the 7 days.
Right.
And then in the other case, when it's like a very long one, it's when it says it's 30 days, even if he violated for more than 30 days.
Only 30 days. Right.
When it's
a long one.
Even
exactly.
If for more.
Exactly. The Ran quotes a story. From Tosfos. Tosfos Chachmei Tzarfati, from the French sages. Yeah, Ma'aser Be'echad. There was a story of a person that took a vow that he's not going to eat any fruits except for grain. Just going to have a bread diet, no fruits. And then he violated, he ate a fruit. He comes to the Rav. The Rav was Matir Neder right away. He didn't require him to not eat fruits for the amount of days that he was eating fruits. Like it says in our Gemara that you give him a hard time. Tell him first, keep your vow for a certain amount of days, and then he didn't do that to him. And the Rav that did this, he explained that even though he took a biblical oath, but since if he would stop him, if he would tell him that he has to go fulfill this oath, he would for sure be machshel him, because it's impossible not to eat any fruits. So therefore, he said it's better to take it off now. And also, if he would make him keep that oath, he won't be able to serve Hashem properly.
I know it means something else.
Right. Right.
Couldn't hear you. What?
I don't remember the word. It's
Lo lechem levada.
Read alone about the word of God.
Is that in the Chumash or is that?
In the Chumash.
It is in the Chumash.
Yeah.
By what else other than grain?
His answer was that he could have taken vitamin supplements. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, that's where we're holding. Chum say no. We give him a loophole, which is just the charata. I think it's going to be charata. I think we said no. Sorry. I don't know if that means that we just say, okay, you regretted it. That's good enough. Yeah, that's what the commentary says. Just okay, you regretted it, so that's good enough. So then we annul it. I think sometimes you have to come up with, not just you regret it, but you have to come up with, had you had known that this is what it would lead to, and then you have to come up with something that to create a Pesach that you were missing information when you took the vow, and therefore, yeah. Now you're not supposed to say, how do you know that this item was going to go on sale? Because that's something that happened later. That you can't do. It has to be that had you have known something back then about this item, that this was good for your heart, that this was something, would you have taken this vow? And the person says, no, I wouldn't have. So then we can release him from it.
That's the logic that Rav Moshe Feinstein uses in some of his Nedarim. If we had known back then,
Interesting.
he used that in particular with respect to a situation where a brother-in-law refuses to perform Kalisa. So what do? You have to research. He's Naguna. He says, had they known back then, something different would have been done. And he makes it retroactive.
Oh, wow. In the original marriage.
Yeah.
Did he learn that from like Hebrew when he with his father-in-law, when he told his father-in-law,
Right.
if you would have known that your son-in-law was going to be a scholar, would you
Yeah.
have said the same thing?
Right.
He asked the same question.
Right.
I think it was
There's a little bit of a problem there because that was something that he got later. He took a vow. Rabbi Kiva's father took a vow, and then it turned out that Rabbi Kiva studied Torah. So, but when he took the vow, Rabbi Kiva did not study Torah. So that was really something that came later. It doesn't fit perfectly. You have to figure out how that works.
George Burns, when he was late 90s, if you knew all these things, what he smoked, he drank, he says, if you knew all when you were younger, he said, if you knew all the things that were wrong for you, he asked him some kind of question just like this, and his answer was, "I would have just done it sooner." Stupid answer.
Okay, Tana was taught in the Brisa Lo'ilam Alti Ragul ben Nedarim. Person should not make Nedarim frequently. Sheseifach limal b'shvois. He'll end up violating even an oath. Now, the oath is worse than Nedarim because it says Lo Yanake, right? Hashem won't forgive someone that takes an oath and violates it. So don't take Nedarim because it's going to end up making oaths and violating them.
When you annul your vows on Yom Kippur, that's a vow, not
Yeah, but we also mention oaths. When it comes to annulling, apparently you can annul the oath just like the vow. Alti ragal etzel amaretz. Don't be frequent with an amaretz in ignoramus. Seifa la'achilach tvalim. It's going to end up feeding you food that wasn't tithe. Alti ragal etzel kayin amaretz. Seifa la'achilcha truma. Actually, on the side it adds in truma tameya. Even if a person's a Kohen, he should not be frequent with a Kohen that's an Amaretz because he may not be careful with his truma, which is the gifts that are given to the Kohen, which become sanctified to an extent. They're not allowed to be impure, and he's going to end up feeding this Kohen friend impure truma. Other pshat would be that he's not a Kohen and he's going to feed him truma, whether it's pure or not pure, but a non-Kohen is not allowed to eat that. Don't speak excessively with a woman. Because then it's going to lead to adultery. Yeah, this is not in the Mishnah. It says even with his wife, even with his own wife. We have to see the pshat. Yeah, in Pirkei Avos. Over
Did they
there,
take that directly from here?
I don't think so. It's another brisa. It's Masechtas Derech Eretz. I thought the pshat in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos was. I'm going to pass me this.
Eli.
Yeah. Sorry.
Manis Friedman told me once that Altar B'Sicha in Risha B'Ishta Yomer means that don't have unnecessary conversations with your wife. You talk about important things. Don't find things to talk about because that leads to just unimportant conversations.
I thought the pshat was when I read the Mishnah. It says your house should be open to wide. That means to have a lot of guests. And poor people should be in your house. And when you have all these people in your house, you shouldn't have conversation with your wife. Rather, you should be entertaining the men. You shouldn't be talking to the women in general that are the guests. Let your wife entertain them. And then you shouldn't be just talking with your wife. Let your wife talk to the women guests, and you should be talking to the men guests. And what do you talk to the men guests about? Torah. So that's why it says, "Kalamar b'sicha misha." These geirim ra'alas my baitel midivrit Torah v'sefer yeshkana. It was basically talking about what to do at the house when you have guests. How do you set up this? How do you make the seating arrangements? The women down by your wife, and you put the men on you. It's just a seating arrangement. Okay. So here, oops, a second. Here, good. Now it says, takes a little twist on us. It says, Ravacha B'Rabbi Yosha Omer, Ravacha B'Rabbi Yosha says, Kol Tzeifa B'Nashim, anyone that gazes at women, Tzeifa B'Lidei Aveira, and then he's going to sin. Kol Mistakel Ba'akeva Shalisha, anyone that looks at a woman's heel, Havel Abanim Shein Muganim will have children that aren't appropriate, that aren't, how does it translate Muganim? Upright? We'll have indecent children. Well, I guess, okay, indecent children. Well, Amr Rav Yosef adds that what is that talking about? The Ishti Nida. Talking about even his own wife while she's in Nida. He shouldn't be gazing. Over here it says at her heel. Amr Rab Shimon ben Lakish. Shimon ben Lakish says that's not exactly what it meant. Her heel was not the big deal. Akeva diktani b'makamatinoifus. Really, it's talking about her private area. It didn't mean her heel. Why did it call it her heel? That's just the euphemism. Because the private area would be, which is sitting in the Indian style. So that would be right against her heel, right against her Tanya. So in the Brisa, Bavur Tiye Yerase al Pnechem, talking about the giving of the Torah, so that the fear of heaven will be on your faces. Zubusha, just talking about being shameful, being what is it? That's the before, right? This is having embarrassment,
When somebody's embarrassed,
right? L'bilti techtos, that you don't sin. This tells us that being ashamed brings to a person to have fear of sin, because he doesn't want to be embarrassed, so he doesn't sin. From here they said, it's a good sign for a person that he is embarrassed. Others say, who's Achirim? Rav Meir, right? Anyone that gets embarrassed, they won't sin very quickly. Doesn't want to be embarrassed. But someone that's not embarrassed is brazen. Obviously, his forefathers were not at Mount Sinai. Why? Because at Mount Sinai, it says that they received the embarrassment, which means actually that the Jewish trait of Baishanim, Rachmanim, and Goim Lechasadim, Baishanim may not have been an original trait. It was a trait that we received at Mount Sinai. Baishanim, embarrassed, Rachmanim, compassionate, Goim Lechasadim, he do acts of kindness.
The other two were natural.
The other two are natural from Avram, like genetically. Yeah. And this is nurture, as opposed to the nature. This we got from Mount Sinai, from the experience. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai says, Daled dvarim sachali malachi asharis. The angels have told me 4 things. What I learned from the angels. Chigrin, limping, lame, someone that's lame. How did he become lame? He was born lame, but how did that happen? Was he genetically? How did that come about? Well, because he had relations. The father had relations with his mother in a atypical manner.
is that what overturned their table?
Overturned the table.
Oh wow.
Now the term for relations is eating. That's the euphemistic term in Tanakh. She eats and she wipes her face and she says, "I have done no evil." Right?
Oh, and it means
That means that they had relations in a not normal, not traditional manner. There's 2 interpretations here actually. One is that he was on the bottom and she was on top. That's one interpretation. The other interpretation that it was sodomy. Ilmim.
Why wouldn't it just mean overcome by their emotions and wait and do it in proper place and time?
Oh, well, the term that they turn the table over, and something's upside down. Ilmim Pneimahavim. Why are people born mute? Because they kiss the private area. Charashim Pneimahavim. Why do people become deaf? Because they speak while they're having relations. Apparently, from this Gemara, they're supposed to be silent. Sumim Pneimahavim. Why do they become blind? Because they look at that. Everything is supposed to be like tit for tat, the measure for measure. The Gemara is a contradiction. Shalos Ema Shalom. They asked Ema Shalom. Remember Ema Shalom from Brachas? Ema Shalom is Rabbi Eliezer's wife, sister of Ram Gamliel. Remember when Rabbi Eliezer was put into Cherem because he refused to accept the ruling of the yeshiva regarding the Taner Achnai, that oven that was, so Ema Shalom didn't let him say Tachnan because she was afraid that her brother would die. Her brother Rabbi Gamliel that was in charge of. So she would always interrupt him. And then one time someone came to the door, or she thought it was Rosh Chodesh, she wasn't going to say anyway. And Rabbi Eliezer said Tachnan, and then the news came out that Rabbi Gamliel passed away.
She was Rav Shimon's.
She was, yeah, she would have been Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's daughter. She was the sister of Rabbi Gamliel. Yeah, Ema may mean like a Ema means mother, but it may mean like a important honorific title for her name, which was Shalom. Maybe her name was Ema Shalom. Mipneima, they asked her, how come Banecha Yafyafin b'Yaiser? I don't actually know who the sons of Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanas are. Interesting. It says, how come your children are so extraordinarily beautiful? Amr Lehen, so she said, he doesn't speak to me. She's talking about her husband. Doesn't speak to me at the beginning of the night or at the end of the night. Now, speak over here means that she doesn't have relations with him. Ella b'chatzos laila, it's only at midnight. Wait. Yeah. You'll see it's going to come in here. Ella b'chatzos laila. Shemasaper, when he speaks to me, megala tefach and machasa tefach. Now, I'm not sure if that means that he uncovers from her a tefach. It means he leaves her covered, or it means from himself. Apparently, he doesn't want to have, either he's very tzniistic or he doesn't want to have the pleasure of their skin touching.
It's commentary from brachas that
he's uncovering himself from himself. I'm not sure if that's the pshat. There is another pshat over here that it's actually we jump topics. We're actually talking about when he uses the bathroom, when he relieves himself. So there is a Gemara that says how much should a person relieve himself? How much should a person expose when he relieves himself? A tefach in the front and two tefachim in the back, or some say the opposite: two tefachim in the front, one tefach in the. He wouldn't do that. He would just do one tefach. Yeah, the Ran quotes that Gemara, which is totally not talking about what the same topic. It jumps topics there. Whatever the case is, v'daima alav kamisha kafu shade, and it's similar as if he's being forced by a demon to have relations. Now, what does that mean? One pshat is, which pshat that seems to fit best over here, is that he was very rushed. He would have relations very, very quickly. There's other pshatim here that either he was covered entirely because as if he was scared, it was like hiding under the blanket, or had relations with a lot of force. Okay. I saw, this is Ema Shalom talking. So I asked him, she asked her husband, Rabbi Eliezer, Matam, what's the reason? Why he's behaving like this? He said, I shouldn't put my eyes on another woman. I think what this means is that he was having relations fast so that he doesn't think about anyone else while they're having relations. It's like the Rebbe that davened very fast. Why? He doesn't want to have foreign thoughts, so he has to move quickly. Very slow, very high. Right. So, and he says that that's comparable to having children that are mamzerim. Why? Because the thought of another woman would have been like he had relations with her, which isn't his wife. Okay. What's our question? Back to how we got into this. We said that they're supposed to be silent during relations. And over here it says that Ema Shalom was having a conversation with Rabbi Eliezer, and we're assuming that it was during the relation. It wasn't the following morning. Well, the Gemara says like kasha. That's not a problem. Havimili detashmish, havimili achanaisa. One is when they're talking about to have the relations themselves. So the Ran's pshat is that he was talking to her about relations because he wants to appease her. That they're allowed to do. During relations, they're allowed to talk to her about the relation.
Not to.
They are allowed to.
Oh,
If you notice, the Mefarish over here has a different shot. He says that I've seen the Mefarish. I see it. No, it wasn't the Mefarish. It was the Rush. The Rush says, "Shari laharbis tavase." He wants to increase his own pleasure, his own enjoyment. So he's speaking to her about relations to increase his own enjoyment. That apparently was allowed. But if you're talking about other things,
On the notice says it also prevents the husband from distracted and thinking of the other one. Like helps
oh,
concentrate.
really? And who do they put that
In the
from?
notes, Mayor and Rabbi
Meiri. Okay, Avram Minahar. So but he's not supposed to speak about anything else. Like, did you pay the phone bill? Any other things? Okay. Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan says, "Zu divrei Yechanan ben Davai." That's only what Yechanan ben Davai said. Before we called him Rabbi Yechanan, I think. Rabbi Yechanan ben Davai. Over here drops him. Abel Amar Chachamim, but the sages say, "Ein halacha ki Yechanan ben Davai." The halacha is not like him. Ella, and this is what you quoted Hillel from the Rambam. So whatever he wants to do with his wife, he's allowed to do with his wife. Gemara gives a surprising parable. It says, it's like meat that comes from the butcher. He wants, he can eat it with salt. It means like salted, like salami, I guess. He can eat it roasted, barbecued. Sli, he wants to eat it roasted. Mevushal, he wants to eat it cooked. Eichlei, shalak, like overcooked, like a stew. Then eichlei, he could eat it like that. And the same thing as with fish. In other words, it's kosher. So you can eat it any way. There's no like, what is the traditional way of making fish? That doesn't have to be gefilte fish. You can have and any way you want. It's all kosher. Okay. Amar Ameimar. Ameimar says, Man Malachi Asharis, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Davai said that he heard four things from the angels, who was he referring to? Who are those angels? Rabbanan. The angels are really the sages, the rabbis. Ditema Malachi Asharis Mamish, because if you would say it was actually angels, then why would Rabbi Yochanan say that we don't rule like Rabbi Yochanan ben Davai? The angels for sure know about the formation of the child. We're talking about what makes the child beautiful, and the angels said this. So they're the ones that they're like hands-on. They're the ones that are forming the child. So So why are they talking about, why are the rabbis called angels? The Mitzaynik Malachi Asharis, because they're unique, like the angels. They're separated from people, they dress unique. Like,
Rabbis are saying.
So we have other Gemaras that say,
Friday night,
Man Malchi Rabbanan.
Friday night, Sharis Malachi Elyon, we're talking about rabbis.
No. This he means that he heard from the, okay.
Here are the translated because they stand out like ministering angels, but they were recognized by the clothes.
As to recognize by their clothing. Okay, now that pshat, the Ran says, the Ran makes it look like they're their own nation. It's like a nation of sages, their own group. Yeah. In the genetics, so there is there's a randomness to how this works. So I guess the way the Gemara is looking at it is this randomness is done by the angels. They pick this gene for the teeth and this for the for the eyes and this for this. All of this is the angels are doing it. Yes, that's what it's saying. Because they know. What do you mean they know? So because they see how it which genes, which, okay.
I thought I was chosen by Hashem, but I guess he chooses.
Yeah, the way
From the
Hashem
angels?
chooses is, how does Hashem, we say, like, why are you taking this with your hand? Why don't you yourself take it? The angels are the Hashem's tools. Okay. The Rebbe. Someone came in front of Rebbe, a woman, Hahi, it's a woman. Amra Lai, she says, Rebbe, Arachti Lai Shulchan V'Havchai. I prepared for him a table and he turned it over. That means that she lay in a position for relations and he turned her over, had relations in a abnormal way. Amar La, Biti HaTorah Hitirticha. The Torah permitted you. Permitted. Hitarti. How does? What's the vowels over there? Show me the vowels on that. Hitirasech. Okay, hitirasech. Hitirasech. Permitted you. Hitir. The Torah permitted. Oh, hitirasech. Permitted you. Yeah. So what could I do for you? Whatever he did was permitted. Okay, now we're jumping a generation here. Says Rebbe, says to Rav, I prepared the table for my husband and he turned it over. So what's the difference from a fish? He can cook it however he wants. That was his comment. Okay. It says, should not stray after your heart. Mikan, from here, I'm a Rebbe, al yishtad m'keisav yitenenu m'keisacher. Person should not drink from this cup and think about another cup. Which means, let's go a drop further to clarify. This applies even if a person has two wives, he should not be having relations with one, thinking about the other one. And I will clarify from you those that are rebellious and those that sin against me. Amar Reb Levi explains, this is children of 9 attributes. That means 9 characteristics, 9 behaviors that cause different problems. And I'm not sure if it means that the children are the ones that are the paishim or the mardim, or the parents that behave like this are the paishim or the mardim. Either way, maybe they're both pshatim are good. Well, there's a Rosh Tevis here. Asnas mishkach. That's the Rosh Tevis. What is that? 4 and 5 is 9. First one is bnei ema. When the husband instilled the fear in his wife, so when he has relations with her, she's afraid of him. Bnei anusa, or he actually raped her. Now the Ran says that these two go together because or else we're going to be left with 10 and there's only supposed to be 9. So we have to combine these two. That basically it's fear or rape. Bnei sinua, he hates her. So when he's having relations, the Ran explains that he's actually thinking about someone else, that's a problem. Bnei nidoi. There's actually 2 versions to this, but one is that the way we just read it is that either he or she was in Cherem, and when the rule of being in Cherem, being excommunicated, ostracized, is that they're not supposed to have relations during that time until it's removed from them. The other version of this is Bnei Nida, is that she was in Nida when they had relations. Bnei Tamura. Bnei Tamura is clearly he's thinking about a different wife. I think they say with Yaakov thought that Leah was Rachel, and then Reuven is born, and I think they attribute Reuven living with Bilhah coming from because there wasn't the clear. I think there was something about that. I'm not sure if I'm making that up.
He was thinking about Leah. He was thinking he was having relationships with a different
He thought he was with Rachel.
Rachel, I mean.
Okay. Bnei Meriva. if they're in a fight and he has relations with her before he appeases her.
I was also, when you started explaining this, I thought about Abraham and Hagar. Maybe that's where
Oh,
it came out.
I'm sorry. Okay. Now, B'nai Shichras, if they're drunk, I'm not sure if that's because I don't know about Avram of anything there with thought about someone else who was upset with it. I don't know anything about that. Does it say that?
No, no,
right. Right.
But I know that Sarah was like his love, you know.
Right. Right. Okay, B'nai Shichras was that one of them isn't aware of what's going on. And so that's not acceptable. B'nai Gerusha Salev, if he had decided to divorce her already, and then he says, okay, we're just going to have relations one more time, so that's not good. B'nai Arvuvia, okay, there's two interpretations here. One is he lives with a woman, one of the women in the harem, but he didn't know which one it was. That's B'nai Arvuvia. Another interpretation is that this woman, many men lived with her, and he doesn't know who the child is, from which man it was. Another pshat is that she was married and she got divorced, and then this new husband didn't wait the 3 months. So that's also B'nai Arvuvia. Okay. B'nai Chatzufa. B'nai Chatzufa means that she is chutzpah. What is chutzpah? Chutzpah, brazen. Audacious. She asks to have relations, and she's not supposed to ask directly. She's supposed to just allude to it, but not to ask directly. Well, Aini, is that a real problem? Amr Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amr Rabbi Yonasan. Shmuel bar Nachmani says the name of Rabbi Yonasan, which is usually how it goes, but there is a pshat over here that it's Rabbi Yochanan. Another version. Usually it's Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Rabbi Yonasan. Kol adam sheshtei tevatai. Anyone that his wife demands relations, having lebanim shafilu b'darish shel Moshe Rabbeinu leiv k'maisim. Will have children that will be so great that even in the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu they didn't have children that were that great. Where do you see this? Shneimar hava lechem anashim chacham nevainim. It says that he wanted to get wise people that would be, to do this. The court, that system of judges, was looking for wise men that were understanding. It says that he found the leaders of the tribes like Siv Nevainim, but they weren't wise. They weren't understanding, men of understanding. He wasn't able to find men of understanding, right? Common sense is not so common. So
Common sense has been missing for a long time.
So, nevertheless, Uksiv Yisachar Chamar Garim says Yisachar is the bones of a donkey, large bones. And it says that the children of Yisachar understand the times. They were people of understanding. Now, what he's not spelling out is that Leah had given Rachel those dudaim, those mandrakes, and it was because of that she was able to have Yaakov that night. So she goes out and she says, "Come to me tonight," which means that she was Tevas Bepesh. She was asking directly for relations. And what happens? She gives birth to Yisachar. Yisachar's children are wise. So you see, by being Tevas Bepesh, by asking for relations, the children come out wise that even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't find. Where it says, she didn't say clearly to have relations. She was just enticing him. And that's why she had those children, but not to ask directly. Okay, we'll leave it over here. That was the second parak. Okay.
I'm not going over this.